It's the third morning. You wake to the same sound you fell asleep to, the long, patient rhythm of steel wheels on welded rail. Outside the window, the birch forest is still going. It was going when you closed your eyes somewhere past the Urals, and it's still going now, somewhere in the middle of Siberia. You've been on this train for 2 days. You have for more to go. There's a glass of tea cooling on the little table, real glass, in a metal holder with a handle. Someone 2 bunks down is unwrapping a boiled egg. A child is pressed to the window, and the attendant who runs this carriage, because someone does run it, is already awake, refilling the boiler at the end of the corridor. This isn't a trip. It's a place. For a week, this train is where you live. So here's the question. How does a train become a world of its own? And why do so many Russians choose to spend days inside one, even when a flight would do it in hours? Start with the scale, because nothing about Russian trains makes sense without it. The Trans-Siberian Railway runs from Moscow to Vladivostok, 9,289 kilometers. It is the longest railway line on Earth. End to end, without stopping, the journey takes about 7 days. And along the way, you cross 8 time zones. 8. Think about that. When it's breakfast at one end of this line, it's evening at the other. One country, one train, and the sun itself can't keep up. And this line was no accident. Construction began in 1891, and a route running entirely through Russian territory was finished in 1916. It was built to close an impossible distance, to put Moscow and the Pacific coast on the same line. More than a century later, that's still what the train does. Not just carry people, but keep the far ends of the map connected. One continuous route across the whole span of the country. Now, when a Westerner pictures a sleeper train, they picture a private compartment. A door that closes. Russia has that. It's called SV, or Lux, 2 berths, a door, privacy, and a price to match. Below that is kupe, a compartment of 4 berths, 2 up, 2 down, a sliding door. Comfortable. Ordinary. And then there's the one that matters. Platzkart. Platzkart is the cheapest class. An open carriage, no walls, 54 bunks in a single long room, stacked in 2s down both sides. No doors. No privacy. You can see, and hear, and smell everyone. And yes, it can be loud, and warm, and close, with nowhere to really hide. But that is exactly why the carriage sorts itself out so fast. When you can't shut anyone out, a shared routine appears within the first few hours. Who sits where, when the table's free, how to step around each other. Order, without a single wall. If you're American, picture the coach car on a long Amtrak route, but for a week, and with none of the walls. And here's the strange part. Platzkart is not the class Russians put up with. For a lot of them, it's the class they're nostalgic about. Because what a Westerner sees as a lack of privacy, they see as something else. Company. A platzkart carriage runs on a few simple things. The first is hot water. At the end of every carriage stands a titan, a boiler that never goes cold. Free hot water, all day and all night. It is the engine of the whole social world. Tea, instant noodles, coffee, a warm drink on a cold night. Everything happens around it. And the tea comes in a podstakannik, a glass set into a metal holder with a handle. It's a small piece of theater inherited from the Soviet railways, and it's still here, identical on every train across the country. The clink of the spoon, the glass in its metal frame. And every carriage has a ruler, the provodnik or provodnitsa, the carriage attendant. They check your ticket, hand you your folded sheets, keep the boiler going, sell the tea, wake you before your stop, and keep order in a rolling room of strangers. Part conductor, part host, part law. Cross them, and it's a long week. Get on their good side, and they'll look after you. And slowly, over that first day, the carriage finds a rhythm. People change into something comfortable, a tracksuit, slippers, the unofficial uniform of the long-distance train. The little table fills and empties, and the endless landscape outside stops being scenery and becomes wallpaper, something you glance at between conversations. And that rhythm has punctuation, the stops. Every few hours the train slows into a station, and for anywhere from 2 minutes to nearly an hour, the world opens back up. People step down onto the platform to stretch their legs, buy something from a kiosk, or from the local sellers who appear beside the carriages with smoked fish, hot dumplings, berries, fresh bread. You read the name of a city you'd never otherwise visit. You breathe air that smells like a different part of the country. You take a few steps on ground that isn't moving, and then the attendant is by the door, calling everyone back. The doors close. The platform slides away, and the little world you left 20 minutes ago is exactly where you left it. Your tea, your bunk, the conversation you paused. The train gathers speed, and the window fills with distance again. Because that is what the days become. Conversations. Somewhere in the first few hours, the food comes out, and Russian train food is its own tradition. A roast chicken wrapped in foil, boiled eggs, black bread, cucumbers and tomatoes, instant noodles, a bar of chocolate. Always more than one person could eat, because that's the point. You share. You offer the people across the aisle a tomato, a square of chocolate, a cup of tea. They offer something back. And by the second day, the handful of people around you aren't strangers anymore. You know where they're going, and why. The daughter in Irkutsk, the new job, the family left behind. There's an unofficial name for this, the honesty of the train. People tell a stranger on a train things they'd never tell a friend. Because you'll share 3 days and 100 cups of tea, and then step off at different stations and never see each other again. It may be the safest confession booth in the country, one that happens to be moving. If all of this sounds foreign, it's more familiar than you'd think. America has its long-distance sleepers, the California Zephyr, 2 nights across the Rockies and the desert. Canada has the Canadian, 4 days from Toronto to Vancouver. Europe is reviving its night trains, the night jets slipping between capitals while you sleep. And India's railways carry the very same culture of shared food and easy talk with strangers. The impulse is universal. Put people in a moving room for long enough, and they become a temporary community. What makes the Russian train singular is just scale and platzkart. Nowhere else asks so many people to share so much space for so long. And nowhere else has turned that into something people genuinely miss. There's one detail that captures the whole thing. For more than a century, every train in Russia ran on Moscow time. Not local time, Moscow time. It didn't matter that you were boarding in a city where the sun had already set. The timetable, the ticket, the clock on the platform all showed the hour back in the capital, thousands of kilometers away. The entire network kept a single heartbeat. It stayed that way until the 1st of August, 2018, when the railways finally switched to local time at each station. A small, practical change. But for over 100 years, the Russian railway ran on one clock, as if the whole country, spread across 8 time zones, had agreed to pretend, just on the train, that it was all one place. And maybe that's the real reason the train feels like a world of its own. In a country this vast, it's one of the few places where a banker and a pensioner, a student and a grandmother, all end up in the same long room, sharing the same tea, keeping the same time. So, back to the window. It's evening now. The birch forest has given way to something else, and it will give way to something else again before you arrive. The tea is nearly gone. The people around you are quiet, watching the light go. In a few days you'll step onto a platform on the far side of a continent, and this little world will simply dissolve. The bunks folded, the strangers scattered, the carriage swept for the next 100 people. But for a week, it was a place. And you'll remember it the way you remember places, not trips. That's a Russian train. Not a way to get somewhere. A somewhere of its own.